go. Annabelle, would you like to introduce?
Yes.
Fran?
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on these workshops. And you are all welcome to contact me, and I'll sign you up for you to give us a workshop as well. So today we have our newest member. She's a friend of mine, Fran Mann Goodman. And she's painting a picture of abstract expressionism is the theme. She's an abstract expressionist painter who teaches students, and she's has a background in education at Chouinard Art Institute, and she's a member of several institutions, including, of course, of NAWA and NAWA Florida. And she just joined the National League of American Pen Women and Broward Art Guild, amongst others. And she's exhibited extensively in the United States, all the way to California, from New York, Florida, and all over, and even in Canada as well. And she's a keynote speaker. She gives workshops and demos. So with you, Fran, thanks for hosting today. We're looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Annabelle. I appreciate that. It's beautifully what you had said. I really appreciate it all. And thank you publicly for all that you have done to encourage me to get into this great organization. As I had originally told Roberta, I was going to do my piece on painting a picture of abstract expressionism per se. But then I realized that a lot of you are artists and probably already know that. So instead, I decided I'm going to use PowerPoint and take you through my windy road to get to be a painter of abstract expressionism, which, when I say this, it still shocks me because I had no intention of being a painter. And admittedly, I wasn't crazy about abstract expressionism. That is until 7 years ago in 2013. So I'm going to share now and take you over. And bring this into a slideshow. Can you all see?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so it all started when I was 7 with my heart made up that someday I would be a famous fashion designer living in Paris. I even wrote it in my high school yearbook. And part of the reason was because my father, who had worked for I. Magnin Couturier in Reno, where I was born, used to fill my imagination with the elaborate creations from the Parisian designers like Dior and Chanel. And I decided that I would dress my paper dolls in my elaborate fashions, and that I too would be famous someday. So let's see here. In the early 60s, I was accepted to Chouinard Art Institute, which is now Cal Arts, where Edith Head, the designer for the movie stars like Mae West and Audrey Hepburn, and Bob Mackie, who designed for Cher and Carol Burnett, had attended. And like them, I took a major of fashion and fashion illustration. And this is a couple of my very, very old pieces that I could find. This is another. And one of the things that we did with the design part of it was we did a lot of making over things. So this was a dilapidated coat that needed to get turned into something modern. And this concept of makeover is inherent in everything that I have done throughout my whole career. So I then decided to take a elective as a painting class. And this is the very first painting that I ever did. And I used quite a bit of spackling paste because I liked when things projected from the canvas. And this came from when I was a kid and was painting paint by number kits. After they were done, they seemed kind of flat to me. So I would take paper mache and I would outline them thin strips, and then all of a sudden they would come alive. So the way that Chenard worked was that it was a very progressive school. It was sponsored by Walt Disney, and you didn't have to always go to class. And painting class was one of them. And so you could paint on your own for 8 weeks and then show up for the critique. So the day that I showed up, along with the other students, we put our paintings along an easel along a row, and I looked at the other work, and I was appalled. I found lines going this way and that way, and paint thrown on, and it was like, I could do this with my eyes closed. That was my introduction to abstract expressionism. And meanwhile, on that very day, I learned from my teacher that I was wasting my time in fashion that I was born to paint. So after a lot of deliberation, I said goodbye to Paris, and I continued to carry on my fine art background while the students called me post-Renaissance girl. Okay, so here's one of the pieces that I did for a perspective class. It's 30 by 40. It was an old building in Bunker Hill, an old house in Bunker Hill, LA. And it's got 18 things in it, which I can't go into every detail of, but I will tell you, like, anything from bobby pins to cotton to tongue depressors. And it's 53 years old, and I often think if this thing was opened up, would there be maggots inside? But anyway, it's been around with me. It's been in many galleries, and I can't part with it. Some of the pieces protrude about 5 inches from the canvas. So as a student of Chenard, I was able to get my work into galleries and furniture showrooms, but for the price of taking my name off that showed that I was a girl. So my father was very upset about this. He let me paint for 3.5 years. I had to make up credits because I had switched majors. And in the end, he told me to leave. So I left Chenard, but I still painted faces, women's faces. I went to Toronto and I got a job as working in a modeling agency, which was a subsidiary of Wilhelmina. And if you know Wilhelmina Models in New York, our girls did Paris Match and international magazines. They were top models, and I had a field day working with them. I also did billboards, and I did print work for magazines that had to do with makeovers, which I'll explain to you a little bit later. Anyway, these girls would meet like 5 o'clock in the morning for a photo shoot, looking like hell. And all I would do is just touch the brush here, there, wherever, and they were ready for the camera. And from an aesthetic point of view, it was a fascinating experience. But what happened is a lot of times they would sit with me and they'd say to me, I hate the way this looks and that looks, and you have to cover it. And they were dogmatic about it all. And invariably, I learned that a lot of them were holding on to images from their childhood of how they thought they looked. Meanwhile, picking up these huge paychecks, which always amazed me. But I got it. I understood it because I myself had an issue, with my face as a child when my jaw stopped growing when I was 12 years old. And I had gone through a living hell. I had family rejection, childhood persecution, and the only ones that were really there for me were my teachers. And that's a whole other story, which I don't have the time to share with you, but I do want to say that all of that led me into a 30-year career working with women and their faces, doing makeovers. And my interest was in bone structure. The cosmetic industry says it's about features. It's not. It's about the planes and angles the same way it's about the planes and angles in painting when you're building textures and so forth. So I was working and doing my color concepts, which again were very different than the beauty industry, who has this idea that everyone should look a certain way. I used the coloration from my individual clients and built the color story around that. I also found that there were so many women who were unhappy with their faces that it actually affected their lifestyle. This is a gal here, Wait a minute, something's with my arrow. Sorry, my arrow doesn't want to take it. Oh, this is a gal here who hated her freckles. And when she came to me, if you can see here, she had her face plastered in makeup, and I showed her how I would do her. And she had a lot of emotional baggage. Anyway, I built seminars. I created seminars and workshops and took them around the United States and Canada. This is a project that I did in Vancouver. And you can see here a picture of my face when my jaw stopped growing. And this is how my face actually looked before my jaw stopped growing. I had a perfect chin. So I got so what was happening was that there were a lot of people that were talking about not only how their faces felt, but how it was affecting their lives. And I decided that I would go out and tell my story. So I was out on the talk show circuit. I was featured on lots of different magazines and so forth. And I tried to build, a whole concept around the fact that women needed to appreciate the beauty, their given beauty. Saying again, that it was about the structure, that it's not about the features. So that went on for 30 years. The only time I painted was when I was pregnant with my daughter. I did this as a mural, a 10-foot mural in her room. And the other time I painted was this when she was 10 years old. That was a mural in our living room. Other than that, I didn't touch paint. Instead, I wrote a memoir and 2 screenplays. And, what happened there was that one of them, I had a Hollywood agent that was interested in one of my screenplays, but I wasn't happy with him. So in 2013, I ended up meeting up with the Will Smith agency in Hollywood, and they wanted a story about what was going on with my screenplay. They wanted me to send something to them, and I was working on this and editing it, making it perfect. Just at the time, I contracted Lyme disease. And when this happened, I was unable to work, especially my thumbs, that I don't know if you can see, are just ridiculous. But I wasn't able to work with the computer any longer. So I went into a depression, and then I decided to pick up a paintbrush. And I couldn't hold the paintbrush because it was very difficult, but I could hold a palette knife. And I was working, I decided that, I could move that palette knife around in such a way using different mediums where I could actually work with the concept of abstract expressionism. And that's how I got started with it. I took a master class with Larry Poons. I don't know if you know who he is. They consider him the last of the red hot abstract expressionists from the 40s and 50s. And I took his class at the Art Student League. By the way, he's in a movie right now called The Price of Everything. That's on HBO. And you've got to see it because talk about it's a jaw dropper. It's just an amazing, amazing piece of what goes on in this industry from a very ugly side. And then I just started to work my paintings. So from here on out, I'll explain to you some of my techniques and what I do. I like water drips, and I love layering. And of course, I love color. And color was very important to me, by the way, when I was a kid. I was very isolated. I didn't have any friends. I didn't have anybody. So I would take piles of construction paper and line them up monochromatically in my closet and sit in my closet just staring at them, being soothed by their color for hours. So color became very, very much a part of my life. And also the texturizing, as I explained before. And the I'm sorry? Hello? Somebody say something? Okay.
Don't worry about it. Helene came in and she was talking. I muted. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay. So anyway, so this painting, which I loved using water drips and getting a feel for water drips, but it wasn't enough for me. But I paint. I don't really have a plan. I don't really know what's going to happen. I just kind of go wherever it's going to go, whatever it's going to do. So this painting became this painting when I was through with it. So you can see the multi-levels of layers that are under and over and so forth. This painting was, I used a lot of molding paste. I like to dig in with with the different points of the palette knife and try to get some texturizing going on with molding paste. And I also love to work with acrylic skins. And this is how the acrylic skin piece shows. I like them because, I don't know if you know what they are, they're the dried paint that you would put on, it has to be acrylic, that you would put on a palette knife, on palette paper that's shiny, and then you peel it off, and depending upon the weight of it and the thickness of it, you can mold with it, so it becomes almost like a clay. So I have a ball with using acrylic paint, using acrylic skins, and that's what was at the bottom of this painting, where I had it in a gallery and in New York. And then this is another thing I do. There's a day when I decide I don't like it anymore. I just don't like what I see on the canvas. So I'm just going to do whatever I'm going to do. And this painting became that painting became this painting, which ended up again in galleries, including here in Florida. And then this is another thing. I started with this painting, which was fun. These here are all acrylic skins, and I called it The Flight of the Cadmian Yellows. And by the way, I paint large. These are usually, well, not that large. I did paint larger when I was in school, but I paint like 36 by 36 or 30 by 40, just to give you an idea of the sizes. And so I decided, so anyway, this painting also ended up in some galleries in Manhattan. And then I decided I didn't like it. So I played with it and toyed with it. Another product that I love to use is pumice stone. But pumice stone does not translate well. It's just very fun. When I paint, I am looking for a life force in absolutely every stroke. So to me, pumice, what it can invariably do is amazing. But so this was processed now, so I'm just taking you through the process. So this is part of the process, and invariably it became this painting, which, like I said, does not translate well in the camera, but it's on my website in its pieces. So you can see all the texturizing that is on different aspects of it. Okay, the other thing I love is paper towels, and I do demos on paper towels anywhere anybody asks me to do them, in art stores or wherever, you know. Paper towels to me are just a joy because you can do so much. You can use them wet, you can use them dry, you can tear through them, you can make balls out of them or whatever you want to make out of them. So I did this painting, and the other thing that I love is interference colors, and this is gold with black, which creates this kind of coppery look in certain light, and in other lights, it's totally different. So, and this one also projected from the wall, and that's it from there. And another thing that I love to do with paper towels is, this is where I, work with it and work it up, but I also like to take it off. So you have the paper towel on for a while and it grabs as it does, and then you rip it off, which is what this whole thing is over here. And then I just play around with it with the paint to see what I can produce from that. So what I wanted to tell you about too, and hope I have enough time, is that I love to paint, but I adore teaching. And I had a really wonderful opportunity last year. Well, first let me tell you just briefly how I teach. I call my class Not Your Ordinary Painting Class, because what we do is we explore the abstract expressionists from the 40s and 50s that were famous, the whole group of them that were down in the Village on 9th Street, and also some that are not famous. Some that, like Sonia Getkoff just comes to mind right now, who did extraordinary work, but because well, there were so many reasons why they weren't, but mostly is because the critics in those days did not like it if you didn't have a particular style. And if you didn't, then you were kind of on the outside. If you were a woman, you were really on the outside. So that never changes. So in any event, I took the class, I took these artists, and what I do with my students is we look at the work that has been out there that they did. And these are very, at the time they were struggling. They barely had any money. And of course, lots of them are worth hundreds of millions of dollars today, their work. But I love the stories. I go and I look for the stories and I share the stories, and some are just amazing. And then we look at the work on PowerPoint. We analyze it from a compositional point of view. And then I have my students paint. Now that we're working with Zoom, I have to have them paint without me, but they paint and they come back with a painting every week, and we analyze their painting as a group critique. So anyway, last year, I had this great opportunity to have a show and sale for 19 of my students. We had 150 people come to the exhibit, which amazed me. And also the photographer from the Sun Sentinel. And he was just blown away by the quality of the work of these, our first-time artists who had never touched paint, a lot of them never touched acrylic, abstract expressionism. And they ended up putting us in 2 cover stories in the Boca, in the Sun Sentinel. And now that I am working with Zoom and I am doing, thinking that their work is really ready for galleries, I had a Zoom meeting with the curators, Sophie Benet from ArtServe, the other day, and talked to her about putting a show together for my students in 2021. And so I don't know if I have enough time, but I wanted to just show you some of the work I showed Sophie of my students' work. So I'm just going to run through a couple of these.
You're scheduled for until like 1 o'clock, so you're fine.
Oh, I am?
Yeah, you're fine. Take
Oh,
your time.
I feel like I'm rushing through everything so much.
No. You can even go back and detail some more of your artwork. You can answer questions about your artwork. I mean, you could go back some of your stuff that you did with paper towels, how it doesn't break apart. I mean, that's kind of interesting. I've tried to work with paper towels. They kind of crumble and dissolve.
But that's good. You want them to. That's perfect.
That'd be interesting. Go back. I wouldn't mind you taking your time and going back.
Okay, let me finish just these few pieces that I have because and a lot of these, okay, so these are different artists that we had talked about the possibility of putting together in the show. And, you know, I have to say that I guess it's in my soul because.
Fran, can you speak up a little bit, please?
Yeah, I guess it's in my soul that teaching is so important, or mentoring people or being there for others, because I had such a rough childhood, and the fact that as a teacher, I get, you know, I appreciate it because my teachers were the ones that were there for me. And so as a teacher, I want to be there for my students. So that's where I think I can conclude from. And yes, I'll take you back anywhere you want to go. What would you like?
Well, I have a few questions.
Okay.
So how did you just start teaching? How did you decide? How did you get your students?
Oh, okay. I forgot about that piece. When I was, in 2013, when I was taking the classes, the master classes at the Art Student League, I thought to myself, you know, I would like to teach this. And so I contacted a museum in New Jersey, Morris Museum, and I gave them my proposal. And not only did I stay for a while, but the director took my class for 4 sessions, and she absolutely adored it. So I knew I was onto something. I had a lot of feeling about it. So when I moved here to Florida in 2016, I joined a lot of the different organizations. I became a signature artist from the Boca Museum. And I decided along those lines that I wanted to teach again. And so I was teaching over on at the Center for Spiritual Living, which is in Boca. And I had said to the director that, you know, can I mention that I want to teach to your group? And sure enough, they said yes. And sure enough, that was the beginning. And then I also taught at the Boca Raton Community Center right before well, for a few classes, and then we ended up having the COVID situation and all that died on the vine. So now I'm just teaching my Zoom classes twice a week, which
I want to add that I've attended one of Fran's classes, and I love it how she introduces an artist. So they first talk about an artist. There's some images portrayed on this artist, and then the students base their work on this artist, and then there's a critique. So it's engaging class, and it's fun because you do learn a lot. So I'm sure you've learned tons just by teaching, because you have to prepare yourself, and I think your students benefit tremendously from it.
I can tell you, it's like amazing. But see, they're channeling the other artists. So for example, this is something that Remington, I forget her first name, if anybody knows, her style of art. And so this was what one of my students did. And this one here is, let's see, we have another one here. Oh, this was Norman Lewis. And this is his style of art. So they're learning by this, because I really believe that these people who struggled so much in their lives are our teachers. And if we could just absorb what they know and what they had to learn by accident or, you know, on purpose to make it work for them, I don't think you can get better teaching. And so that's one of the things that I spend a lot of time analyzing their work and exploring their backstories. Like I said, the backstories are profound to me. For example, Lee Krasner, who was married to Jackson Pollock, they were so poor, they couldn't afford a refrigerator, and they kept their milk on the windowsill. I mean, you know, it's like, you can't fathom this, but this was what was going on in those days. So, and oh, there are just so many backstories.
Well, what is remarkable about you is your resiliency, because even though people were making fun of you, and it's hard when you're growing up and you don't get peer pressure can really turn you down and lock you in, that you will never recover from it. In spite of that, of all these things going against you, you chose to embrace the positive, uplifting teachers that you had, who pulled you through this, and you put so much into it on your own. So I think it's remarkable, it's uplifting, and I'm glad that you are out there helping others, teaching others, and from your weakness, you made it your strength.
That's right.
And that is really something exemplary, and we admire you for it. Your work is fantastic. I love the 3D quality to it. And I really applaud you for teaching others and showing that a handicap doesn't have to be a handicap. You can all look inward, and we're all the same inward. So there's no need to focus on whatever is not exactly the same as others, and make it our strength. And I applaud you, and may you continue doing so much good in this world of art and in humanity.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yes, I've always said that my trauma is a gift, because I was so lucky. I've met so many women all across the country that were very beautiful looking women, and they just didn't know it because they were also carrying childhood baggage. And I actually ran a support group, and when the women showed up for the group, they looked at each other and said, "Why are you here?" You know, so it really had nothing to do with the aesthetics. It had everything to do with what they were carrying. And I just, yes, I feel very, very gifted that I was able to do that. You want me to go back and show you some?
Yeah, I was going to ask, I've done the interference. I love working with interference acrylics too, but it was the paper towels. I've had them just, they're not controllable. I was wondering how you manipulated it without it kind of completely falling apart. I've had a hard time with it.
Okay, but Okay, so what I'm going to preface that by saying it's great when it falls apart. That's what you want. Again, I tell my students, there is nothing to fix, there's nothing to conceal, there's nothing to change, which is exactly what I told my clients years ago. I really believe that. It's just a matter of one stroke leads to the next stroke, and let's see what happens. So with the paper towels, I think the beauty of them is not knowing what's going to happen. And just let it happen, because I don't think with mediums, I don't think there is much control. And there certainly isn't much control with abstract expressionism. It's not like we're painting apples to take bites out of, we're really trying to be in the touch with like I always tell my students, there's rules, but every rule can be broken. And thank you, Helen Frankenthaler, for saying that, because that is really true. So I just feel like be free and let that happen. So when you put the paper towels on and they're not right, go to see what can happen next. That would be my best suggestion. What else did I want to tell you? Is there anything else that you want me to talk about? Can't hear you.
Oh, I was gonna say, some of those pieces, the vibrance, the colors, I love them.
Maybe you could tell me about this, because I don't understand why some of the pumice, the paintings with pumice do not translate. Wait a minute, let me go back.
I like their effects though.
Yeah, I like them. Why do you think they don't translate? I do too.
I put that on my website with all of the little images below it, because I'm nervous to, I could show you the actual painting, it's over here, but I just feel like I wouldn't be able to send this in for a show or, for a jury, because I think they wouldn't get it unless I sent along all the little images. I just feel like.
I think you can send it as is.
Hmm?
I see it perfectly.
Are you concerned with the fact that it's the shadowing? Maybe if you hit it with the shadows?
I tried to do that too, but you see, there's you can't see this kind of thing, and you can't see this, and that's what frustrates me about it, because it's so, it's what the nature of pumice is,
It's beautiful.
I like it.
I think it's gorgeous, but if you're really concerned that it's not picking up the depth and the shadowing, just pick us near the late afternoon and photograph it in the late afternoon.
Oh, really?
You'll find, yeah, try it. Cloudy days flatten the shadows, so pick it in the afternoon when you actually do get shadows to see what you can get. Sometimes there's different times of the day. I used to do photographing cars, and we would shoot in the different times of the day just to pick up different shadowing. So try just that and see what it
There's
comes up with.
no light on it then, no light on it at all, you're saying.
Right, because right now, if you're concerned with it and you have it flat and you're not getting, it feels too flat to you, just purposely hit it with the shadowing on the days. And what better time is either sunrise or sunset.
Okay, thanks, I will definitely try.
Fran, what
Yeah.
I do when I have a very textured painting
Yeah,
is I put it on my easel in a dark room.
in a dark room.
Yes, and I aim all the lights to the ceiling. And then it
Right.
drops down and
Another
creates
bounce it.
shadows around.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right,
Okay,
yeah,
that's very
same thing, you're creating downslight. So you're creating your own sunset.
And are you doing this on a regular iPhone, or are you doing it on a professional camera?
I use a professional camera.
I have to talk to you about that, Judith, because I'd like to get one like that. So
Okay.
you can help me with that. Great.
Yeah, I use a DSLR to shoot my artwork. I use an iPhone to do a test to see how the lighting works, but then I go back and use I have a Sony a6000, which is an antique, but it does a great job with photographing artwork.
Oh, great to know. That's wonderful. Thanks. I'm going to definitely check into that. I do think that's part of the issue. I do need a better camera.
I still think they're beautiful, and when you show it for a show, nobody in art will ever question whether or not it's got texture. We understand it, Yep. But if you're concerned with it and it's bothering you, try a different shots.
Well, yeah, I'm going to really do that. Thank you.
But we understand the translation. We see that. We know there's depth.
Thank you. That's great. I would definitely do that.
I think it's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? I mean, I
I
love
really
these
like
colors.
that one.
I love the vibrance of the yellows and the blues.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yes, but you know, again, like I tell we do this often. I tell them, take an old painting that you don't like anymore and see what you can do with it, because there's a lot happening. All of that is happening under this. It really started with this. So I think that's what makes it just so thrilling, that you've already got a ready-made texture. And then you can always add and do whatever else you want to do. I'm not saying take over your paintings and try to, you know, do this with everything. But if you're unhappy with one, I think it's a really cool way to connect with it and see what's possible.
Oh, a friend, I want to say something, add something. I was on mute, so you couldn't hear me.
Sorry. Yes.
Sorry. Yeah, so I suggest you can take a small video and you can do it on video, so it shows the painting from different angle, like you come into the room and you're looking, just a short one, very, very short one.
Yeah, that's a great idea too.
Yeah, I agree with that idea. Also, when you showed at the beginning the artwork from the side on your pieces that had like the little huts, and so then you can really appreciate the texture.
Yeah.
So I think that maybe in addition to the video, you could also take some from a side. That's what I do with my 3D pieces. I don't only take a straight shot, but from the side, because yours do have so much texture.
Right. That's a good idea. But can you,
like a perspective view?
But can you send those in for, let's say you try to get into a juried show? Can you send that in that way with two of the paintings like that, or would they accept that? To see it for me?
Only if they give you, you know, multiple views. Otherwise, no.
Yeah.
Sometimes they will let you Photoshop two together, and you can always call and ask if they will let you do that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say about photography. I have a Nikon, but I don't know if you can see these. I make these big, or my husband did, 2x4s.
Oh.
I like that.
And they all have three lights attached to them. I have two of these, and I place them in different directions. I can put them up on my table and then aim them any way I want. I don't know how well you can see that.
Hold that again, because I'm going to take a picture of that for my husband.
Yeah. Oh, and the bottom, let me see if I can get the bottom, because this is important. The bottom is just bookshelf struts. See how that's on the 2x4?
Wow. How
So
clever.
they're very cheap to make.
Hold on one sec. I want to take it off. So let's see.
Yeah, of course, these cheap, but they're really useful in photography because you can plug and unplug whatever lights you want to use.
We would call them C-stands in advertising. But you got a nice little homemade one there. I got to show my husband.
And Patty, can you hold the bottom of that up again?
Yeah.
They're just brackets.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's shelf brackets. Okay. Oh, it's kind of heavy. This is one shelf bracket. See, and that's another shelf bracket. So it's very stable whether I put it on the floor or I put it.
Okay.
I have, like I said, I have two of these because sometimes I want the light aiming from two directions. But what I wanted to tell Fran is I do a lot of pieces with 3D elements and 3D mounting. And so when I want to show that idea of the 3D part of it, I put it up high and then aim it down and then take a picture of a small portion, a detail portion of the side. So it really gives you an idea of what the 3D is. And then, like I say, I think more and more juried shows are allowing you, even if they say one image, to put together two images in Photoshop or whatever program you have and submit that as your one image.
That's a good idea too. Yes, because you're right. You don't get, I had a woman buy 3 of my paintings. She's the wife of the, I'm trying to think of what it is. He was the, oh my God, the name escapes me. But anyway, from The Big Short. He was the film editor of The Big Short. And she bought 3 of my paintings. And when she looked at him, she said, I would have never, ever seen the amount of layering that you have on a two-dimensional canvas. And
Right.
that's so frustrating.
It
Because,
is.
you know, that's why are we doing it? If not
Mm-hmm.
to see it, you know? So it taught me, that was a while back, so it taught me you really have to pull these things out and let
And
people
it's
see
especially
them.
frustrating when they do juring now by video. They don't see it in person anymore because they have no
Right.
idea. And what are you supposed to do it as a 3D relief? They don't really have that as an option anymore. They say, some of them say they do, but they really don't. They still don't have that as a real true, and you don't have a way of presenting it. So I totally agree. It's frustrating.
Yes.
Roberta, can I ask Fran a question? This is Shirley.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Fran,
Yes.
I'm very new to pouring acrylic paint, and I've recently discovered acrylic skin.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted to ask you particularly, what do you use to adhere the skin to the canvas? I
Okay.
use Mod Podge.
I just use gel gloss. That's like a paste.
I
So
got it.
you just get that regular,
I've got it. I've got it.
Goldie makes it, yeah, it'll hold. But what I do is that if I'm going to, you know, I'll paste them down. Of course, you have to keep it flat. You don't want gravity to pull them down. So you want to keep the canvas flat.
Right.
If I'm going to, I mean, I will do that and I'll set it up that way, but then I'll go back 100 times and just go around the edges of them so that they're really adhered. Because, you know, you don't want them to ever fall off.
So now, as a result of discovering this, I'm now saving whatever
Yes,
onion skins, I call onion skin, acrylic skins,
absolutely.
and then I will try to develop those into additional canvases. Right now I'm working small, but
Uh-huh.
I have a very large canvas with some base color on it. It's like 40 inches by 60 inches.
Wow.
I'm very, I would like very much to try to do the acrylic pour on this large canvas, which is going to probably be impossible. But I'm also thinking if I get enough of the acrylic skin, I could maybe do some pour and some acrylic skin, make a combination of both and work it on this big canvas.
Well, so you're going to put the pour on and then you're going to let it dry and then you put the skins on top of that and paste them
Maybe in
down.
a different place, you know,
Yeah.
try. It's the doing that makes it happen.
Yes.
You got to do it to experiment and to see what happens and then go from there.
You know
So,
what, yeah,
this is thought process at this point. I
Yeah.
haven't done it yet.
I want to say something about that over here. Let me go back to share. When I did this thing here, I noticed with my students, let me go back, I think it's here. Yeah, when I did this, I noticed with my students that if they're going to do a acrylic skin, they want to put one here or something here, something here. I think if you take them and you collect them and you get, you know, kind of create something so that, because these are all just little itty bitty pieces. So all these itty bitty pieces come together. And then what I like to do is that you'll see on the edges when they are on that this is just plain. So I like to follow the edges with some paint, and then it kind of connects and makes them all become important to each other.
More cohesive. Yes, that's a wonderful suggestion.
Yeah.
Also, I found that leaving some of the white canvas exposed, not covering it completely,
Absolutely.
also gave it a lot of interest. And I'm particularly happy with one that I've done. Eventually, I'll get to show it to you all. And anyway, I'm very happy to see what you've accomplished because this, like I said, it's brand new to me and I'm excited about it. And the one that I did there's one that's really successful and I'm going to keep going.
No, that's great. Oh yeah, there's just so much that can be done with that. That's wonderful. It's
Thanks
really
for sharing. What about the sides? I've been wrapping the acrylic skin around the sides also so that it gets a complete finish and doesn't require a frame. What do you do?
Oh, that's very interesting. I wouldn't have thought of that. You're taking the skins and bringing them. Oh, so you're using bigger skins. You're probably using larger sizes to be able to wrap.
It's a small canvas.
Okay. So
Skins are not that large.
right. You're
I'm
thinking small.
wrapping so that it's
Clever.
and the color just goes out into negative space.
Right. I love that.
Not requiring a frame. So
Right.
right now I'm working like 8x8.
Oh, wow. I give you a lot of kudos. I love to paint small, and I just can't do it at all.
That's easy for me because I'm a large canvas painter. And that's why I'm thinking maybe I can explore
Yes.
working on the 60x40. I've got two. One has got a pink ground and the other one has a green ground. And I'm thinking if I can combine some paint and some acrylic skin on the large canvas, I might get something going.
Yes, sounds very exciting. I'd love to see it when it's done.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to compliment you because I think you're one of a kind. You're wonderful, and sharing the way you're sharing is exceptional. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I do. I
Fran,
love,
so
yeah.
question with paper towels, it's similar with the gel gloss. Is that what you use to adhere?
Yeah, I always use the gloss always because I find that it's clear. It dries clear. You don't know that it's there. Where are these paper towels again? It dries clear. And I have a control over it. I don't use the Mod Podge and all the other adhesives that are out there. I don't use Elmer glue. I'd like to try that sometimes with Elmer glue and paint. I have no idea what that would create. What I do with my students, and I find very interesting too, is use different applicators. I love the palette knife, and my palette knives, I don't have one to show you, but I don't usually clean them. And so some of them have the most incredible shapes to them. And just by having them set up like that, they make very interesting applicators. But I think that the applicators, you know, that you can use, like even combs or brushes or, you know, household items that go on with paint. Now, I only have my orientation to acrylics. So, you know, we only do it with acrylics, but amazing things can happen with that. So,
Fran, could you talk a little bit more about pumice stone? How do you do that? What is it? Is it not the dust? Is this actual stone? Or?
No, well, no, it's here. Okay, here, let me get off this for a second. And just get me over here. It's, okay. Can you see this? No, you can't. Can you?
Yeah.
Why
is it disappearing? There you go. Okay.
Okay, you got it there. I got to put it in front of me.
Oh,
okay.
pumice gel. Oh, okay.
Yeah, pumice gel coarse, I like. The other one is sandier. You can use that. But I like to use this, and I use it with the this too. I love this product, the granule gel, because that gives you itsy bitsy little pieces, and it also has a reflection. And then there's also glass beads. So pumice, glass beads, and pumice and granule gel, to me, just do amazing fun things. So let's see what I want. Something else I wanted to say and I lost it. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, so that's what, okay, so working with pumice, let me go back to this. I just layer it on with the palette knife. It's grainy, it's scratchy, it's noisy. But I just, you know, I get very excited about what's happening because when the paint goes on the pieces, you know, it's like it breaks it up naturally. And then every little bitsy piece becomes what I call, you know, I always use the word life force. There's like life force everywhere. And I just think you can't get that with a lot. You can't get that, of course, with gel gloss, which is wonderful. I love that for movement. I think, you know, that's a fantastic product. But I think if, you know, like I like to break things up into tiny little bits. So I'm thrilled to find that there are things like that. I've also, and I've had my students try to use crackle paste, but I'm not in love with it. And fiber paste, and I'm not in love with that. So these are the ones that primarily are my you know, mediums of choice.
I have another question for you. Other than teaching your students via Zoom because of the corona, has it affected you in another way? Is your art different? Are you dedicating less or more time to your art because of this lock-in?
No, I'm really not. I haven't done it. This is actually the last thing that I did, and I finished it last month. But I haven't really had the time because, you know, I am always looking for what's next with my students right now. And also I am involved with the Delray Art League. I'm the Art Education Fund Chair, and we're trying to put together projects and places where our members can go. So as much as I love to think that I have the time to paint, every time I go to do it, I actually have something started down there that is just laying there, calling me, but I can't get there. So, you know, as long as I can take care of my students, plus during the week, so they're painting every week, one painting, but they will text me during the week with what's going on, and they'll ask my opinion and advice, and I try to give it to them so that when they do show up with something, even though they're going to critique it, because they're moving on to something else, every once in a while, we'll talk about it, and then we'll talk about what could be, I always say, I'm always into this concept of tweaking. So when we do a critique with them, they start to say, oh, I don't like this doesn't work, this is horrible. And I will tell, give them my ideas about how they could tweak it, and they'll come back with a whole new painting because they don't have that confidence. So I am always using that word, tweak it, little tiny little bits, and then see what happens as you go. And sometimes they'll come back and show us what they did, but lots of times they're on to what's next. And I always, it's an unfortunate thing because I'm not there and I'm not next to them while they're painting, but I will say on behalf of them, without me being there, they're blowing my mind. And I'm just, that's what encourages me all the time, just to see the progress.
I have a request and I have an offer too. My request is, could you send Annabelle or someone a couple sentences about how you do that paper towel technique? I'm sorry to say I missed a little bit of that. And my offer would be that I'd be happy to also send her how I constructed these light poles.
Oh, good. Okay, sure. You got it. Absolutely. I mean, again, it just when you do this paper towel technique, so what will I tell you about that? You want to put them on when there's paint there. You might want to put them on when the paint's wet. You want to put them on sometimes wet themselves, because you can mold with them more when they're wet. I like to tear through them, like Roberta, so I like to tear through them and then throw them on and see what that does.
Yeah, I kind of got it wet, and that's why they broke apart too fast.
Yeah, and it breaks apart is really, I think, the key, because then you can see once it breaks apart, and then you can split it open and open it up and then see what you've got. But again, I would go with paper towel to have no plan, no design of what's going to happen, because those towels are going to lead you. And tell you
How do you set them at the end? How do you set them for permanence?
Well, that's again, you're using, you're putting it's wet, so it'll grab the wetness of the acrylics, because acrylics are glue, themselves. So they're wet, and if they're wet and the paper towel's wet, they become an automatic adhesive. But I always trace and trace and trace, and sometimes if it's a big enough piece, I will put some of that gel on the back too, and so it grabs. But for the most part, I find that the acrylic itself is its own glue, but mindful of the edges, because that's where you don't want anything to peel off that you don't want to peel off. If you want it to peel off, that's one thing, but if you don't, you got to keep working your edges with the paste, a small brush kind of thing.
So I love the suggestions. Patricia, you will send me the stand that you created for the lights. And Fran, if you can kindly also share with us these
yeah, I can give you steps.
You think so?
Steps, yeah.
So then we can just forward it to everybody. I'll compile them and do a follow-up and send it to everybody. Now, I had originally asked Fran if she could do a demo. So she thought maybe amongst us, some people are so advanced, they would not be interested, but you see that there is an interest. There's always new techniques to learn. So maybe we can do a follow-up in a few months from now with a workshop that you send us the materials, and we will get them ready, and we will all do, say, an 8x8 canvas or whatever you want to work on, and we can all do via Zoom a small workshop. Would that be of interest to many of you here present?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, I think we should do it. So I'm going to schedule you, Fran, if that would be okay with you.
Sure, I was thinking as you're saying it, maybe we would be out of the Zoom concept in a few months, and we'll be able to
No, this Zoom is here to say, it is so comfortable that we don't have to drive. We are just,
Yes.
some of us have the studios or at home, and it's just so comfortable to
But you
get
see,
together.
Annabelle, okay, but I want to say one thing, because I do demos. I didn't mention that. I do a demo, not every week, because we get so enmeshed in what we're doing, but I'll do a demo maybe twice a month, because I see everyone once a week. So if it's the 5th week, for sure, there'll be like 3 demos in a month. But I find them very difficult for the students to see what I'm doing, because of the positioning of my easel against their camera, so to speak. So I have to kind of lift it and hold the computer and say, do you see this? Can you see this? Have any of you had any experience with doing demos on Zoom and how
Some
that?
people use more than one camera, and that's how they can get the different angles or the close-ups, but that's hard to do.
Yeah, that's really hard to do on one
It's
Zoom.
hard to do, but that's how they get it done.
But that's how they do it when they have multiple Zoom windows going at the same time. That takes some knowledge of working with Zoom, and
Yeah.
you're literally having multiple Zoom, like you're doing right now. But what
Yeah.
you're doing is you're having multiple windows going at Zoom at the same time.
Wow.
But I wouldn't worry about it, especially that people here are professionals, they have experience.
Most of us
So
can do that.
we clearly understand what you are talking about. If you do a demo before our workshop, you know, just 5 minutes or 10 or whatever you want, and then we do our own, and then we can critique ourselves.
Yeah.
I think that would be very beneficial to all and fun, because it's something different that we don't normally work with.
Because if you're talking about folding back on your materials, or if you're talking about blending, we already know this kind of stuff.
No, I'm not talking. I'm
Because
just
you've been
no,
doing
I'm
it for
not
so
even
long.
talking about that. Just talking about the visual connection between.
I have a suggestion about that. I bought a selfie stick, which I've never in my life used for a selfie. My husband and I made a huge installation, and we did not know how to photograph it. And we have a 2-story house. So we put the installation on the floor, on the tile floor down below. And then from the top of the stairs, we used an extension on that selfie stick to take a picture of it from the top. So what I'm saying, in your case for your demos, perhaps you could, you know, adhere a selfie stick to something above the table, or put the piece on the floor and put the selfie stick on the table. And in that way you can see from above without having to lift it up and put it down.
That sounds like a great idea, and I'll get back to you on that one too.
Those are very comfortable. I can also send you information that you grab your cell phone and you buy this little stand for it, and it makes it very comfortable to show.
Fran, can you do me a favor? Can you put us back to the whole group so I can get one smiley, like a group picture, so I can, for promoting whoever's here, whoever's left.
We need more people.
Janice, you just disappeared on me. Hi. Can you smile into the camera? Whoever's here, whoever's left. I'm gonna count to 3 and do a print screen. Janice, you've got your hand over it. Smile in the camera. I'm gonna count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Look into the camera. Okay, great. Thank you.
Good. Good.
Thank you very much, all of you, Roberta and Annabelle, for helping, and especially to Fran. I don't see her on my screen, but I was really inspired by that. So thank you very much. And bye-bye to all.
Thank you
I
all.
apologize for being interrupted. I had a lawyer calling me.
Okay,
problem,
I can do one more picture. You want to do one more picture? Just make sure.
Sure,
we got
let's
it.
do one more.
We'll do one more. Smile. Everybody on? Nobody lost again? Let's see. Count to 3. 1. It takes a little minute for the print, so get ready. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Angel party.
I want to
There's a
remind
delay.
everybody